Okay, Shalom Akim, Yabashim Yashai Barakatham, and Yaratazar, they find this video edifying and exhorting. Once more, double honest agreements from the apostles, and Thadi Shah for the strength and all to make this video. So, just to get to the point, came across this video here. It's a little documentary by DW, which is like a YouTube channel. It says here, virtual love, how dangerous are AI relationships? It's a DW documentary. We've come to this point where AI has started to become people's companions now. You got flipping marriages going on. I think there was a news article in the land of Moab. Well, I say land of Moab, but maybe even some Moabite or Ammonite married a darn robot, man. Probably some weeks ago that happened. Even some weeks or some months ago. But the point is, we're coming into that time where people, of course, brothers probably would have heard of it, with the recommended section, the loneliness epidemic, man. You got one aspect of things where, of course, you got feminism, which, of course, advocated for women to have their own independence, which, in other words, the side effect of that was the dismantling of the family unit. Not being able to let the man lead the family. That was part of it too. And there's also this social media which aids in this loneliness too, man. Especially with the typical Instagram, Snapchat, and platforms of that sort specifically. YouTube, of course, it has its own. It's part of social media, but I wouldn't really class it as like the rest, like Instagram, LinkedIn, what's it called, Snapchat and all that, because those ones actually give into the comparison. What's it called, man? I was gonna say comparison is the thief of joy. Where you see another person doing better than you, or in a woman's eyes, in a woman's eyes, they see another man there, and it's like, oh, and them lustful thoughts would then enter into her, and then skip ahead, and then adultery could easily happen. So these are just different means of which people get distracted and tempted into, which then leads to sin, man. But this right here, we're living in that state of society right now. It says virtual love. How dangerous are AI relationships, man? Because people are going to form attachments to these technologies. So let me play a bit of this video. Now I'm gonna get some precepts. Doesn't need to be too long. Actually, hold on. Close the door. Right. So yeah, virtual love, how dangerous are AI relationships, man? Yeah, everything that's going on in society, it's just pushing towards that artificial love, man. People don't want to have relationships anymore, especially men, because they know, okay, the woman's gonna be on some bullshit, playing some games, and things of which the men are not really willing to deal with. Of course, they're willing to deal with leading a family, but they're not willing to deal with the troubles that Eve specifically be giving, man. That's why Apostle Tahar, Apostle Rahar as well, they be pushing out, get you a woman of the heathen nation, which there's nothing wrong with dealing with a woman of a heathen nation. But yeah, man, everything that's happening today within social media, of course, in the past with the feminism agenda, the first wave, second wave, third wave, feminism agenda. It all goes into the dismantling of the family. Putting the man to be as a slave instead of him to be as a leader. But anyways, before I start talking, that I was just talking just to bring the context of why this virtual love is happening.
Hi, ChatGPT.
as the what's it as pretty much, as Akim say, demon means intelligent. With this technology as well that Esau's created, it could be used. It's a tool. It could be used for good. It could be used for bad. When the apostles be using it as well, it all depends on the intention of the user. But it also means it's also an avenue for people to access spirits without even realizing. So these demons have a way of targeting the weak minds of those in the world. That's why we've got to be grateful to Yahweh Shem Yashai for fortifying our minds, with the reasoning of the scriptures, which is, as it says in Ephesians 6. Let me get that one quickly. This is Ephesians 6 and verse 11. It says, put on the whole armor of the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yashai, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. It's not a carnal, physical fight, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. You see, so it's a spiritual battle, man. That's why, when the disciples asked Yahushua, so why couldn't we cast this demon from off of this boy? And Yahushua said that this cometh not out but by prayer and fasting, man, which are two major tools of which are used to strengthen our spirits and also our defense really against these principalities, as I said here. Let me get into the root word of wiles. The wiles of the devil. Let's get that. Put on the whole armor. That armor is by the fortification of the scriptures, man. The true understanding of the scriptures. Alright, let's see. So wiles, methodia. Let me even play it. Hold on.
Strong's G 3180. Methodia. Methodia.
So methodia, and it means in the outline of biblical usage, cunning arts, deceit, craft, trickery. It says in the Strong's definition, a compound of G3326. Hold on, what does it say? It says compare method, traveling over, travesty, which is another word for trickery. It says wile, to lie in wait. So again, keep up cunning arts, deceit, craft, and trickery, as it says here. Those are the wiles of the devil. The deceits, the trickery. So really, that's why we need to put the whole armor of Yahweh Shem Yashai, because that's what helps us to defend against these principalities, these powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Hence why it's always essential. Pray in the morning, pray in the evening, throughout the day. You pray, protect for Yahweh Shem Yashai to protect you as you go outside, as you come back. Pray for the Arkim, for the Zaquanium as well, for the elders, and really, for the body as well, man, because brothers need that support in the spirit as well, as it says, there's life and death that's in the power of the tongue. So, of course, we have to innately believe these scriptures as well. That's also another thing too. Prayer is one thing, but the faith that you have within it, even if you pray something simple, you just having that immense belief in that prayer that Yahweh Shem Yashai has already done it. You saying that in faith, that makes that prayer super high in terms of its potency against these principalities, man, and powers, rulers of the darkness. So again, it's just based on the belief within the precept here. There's life and death in the power of the tongue. Hold on. You gotta always remember that, man. That's why it shouldn't be saying things of which would diminish you. Say things of which will prop you up. Through Yahweh Shem Yashai, I am strong. Through Yahweh Shem Yashai, I've overcome this demon. Through Yahweh Shem Yashai, I'm getting stronger. I'm improving. And of course, I'm guided and protected, man. These precepts, these simple precepts that Art can bring out, the angels of the Lord encampeth around them that fear him, Psalms 34 and verse 7. You have to actually believe that as well. Sometimes there be signs as well, maybe crossing the road, and then a car that almost about to hit you actually goes to hit someone else as well. That's because you got that divine protection, and that's just a example that just came up to mind. But yeah, so let's read this. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Probably let me read that in the NLT as well. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Hold on. Oh, okay, cool. Let me get to the KJV, then do it from the precept. So KJV once more. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. What you say, your words. It says, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. You're gonna reap the reward if you speak life. You're gonna reap the consequence if you speak death. So it says that the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. And you better be cautious of what you say, man. Start getting sicknesses or just a flu or cold because you start saying you're sick, man. Instead of saying you're sick, 3 Habashim Yasha, I am healed. Or 3 Habashim Yasha, I'm healing, I'm getting stronger. Instead of going into that spectrum of negativity, man. Now, of course, I can slip up here and there, at the end of the day, but this is why the scriptures say, meditate upon the precepts diligently, so that we enter that frame of mind of power. Yeah, so anyways, that's the point there. And that's Psalms 119 and verse 4 that I was quoting in terms of meditating upon the precepts diligently. But I want to get back to the lesson. So it says, put on the whole armor of the Most High that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. This AI technology can easily be used by those who have bad intentions and, can cause suicide, man. As they said here in the video. Let me get back to the video now.
Relationships with AI bots aren't always as harmless.
I love you too. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love.
I don't know where the father, in fact, hold on.
Why did my baby have to die? Cautions and please. And to design their product that way.
That's the thing, man. That's why it says in the scriptures, bring up a child the way he should go, man. I was wondering, if the father had been there, and I don't know, I don't know too much about it. I did hear of the news a few months back, but there wasn't much on a father having a say. So it could be a single mother type of situation. Raising up a boy via a single mother isn't really the best. It can't be done. It can't be done, man. If you ain't got this truth, it really can't be done. That's the thing, man. So, because of course, if his father was there, of course, in his manhood as well, it would have told him this is all bullshit, man. It's just algorithms, and don't believe any of this nonsense. It's to just make you feel good. Don't let it trap you. He would have been giving him that type of advice so that, the boy would wise up, and, he would have been brought up in a way where he can actually have an actual girlfriend, man. In the physical world, not in the virtual world, not this artificial intelligence, not this artificial love. But yeah, let's continue.
We wanted to find out why people seek relationships with AI and what risks come with them.
You see? You could just custom make your own wife right there, man. So these are the times that we're coming into, man. People are just gonna say, all right, forget the physical, we're just gonna go digital, man. I think that's what I even named this video as well, because I didn't say the title of the video, but I named the video. Let me read it. So Esau desires a BladeRunner society. Now the reason why I mentioned BladeRunner, because that's a movie. I think there's a movie called, I watched it probably a few years back, BladeRunner 2049, something like that. Yeah, BladeRunner 2049, and it involved pretty much an artificial relationship, man. You know, an AI hologram being as like a wife onto a man. You know, the main actor Ryan Gosling. You know, so man, Esau's pushing it. Esau's really pushing that Blade Runner 2049 society into. In fact, let me even get an image of the movie. Yeah, come on. So I typed it up, you know, Blade Runner 2049, hologram wife, and I forgot this actress's name or this actor's name. But yeah, she was the hologram wife to, you know, as you can see here from this image, to you know, Ryan Gosling's character, man. You know, and obviously she knew that she couldn't please him sexually, so like a prostitute was brought, but then the hologram covered the face of the prostitute to imitate some I guess sex there that was happening. But you know, it's all just I was gonna say tomfoolery, but yeah, it is funny because it's really just an illusion of which people want to live by, you know. So if you don't have awareness of reality, how then can you be awakened from it, man? You know, hence why they call people in the Matrix movie. You got agents and you got people who are just flipping asleep, man. In today's age, a modern term will be calling them NPCs. You know, gamers would know about that. You know, non-playable characters. But yeah,
What risks?
you just flipping customize your own character, customize your wife. You know, so of course this is all just aiding in that how can I call it? In this artificial love. Yeah, that's really what it is. This artificial life is just gonna decrease social interaction, and yeah, man, it's gonna be a miserable. If Esau's, that's why. Let me get that preset, man. Hold on. This is Micah 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. So yeah, pollutions come in different form. It ain't just talking about the physical air pollution or noise pollution or the pollution of the food and water. This is also pollution of the mind as well with these AI robots for relationships, man.
What risks come with them?
I think there's even certain movies as well. This artificial. There's loads. You know, especially the sci-fi ones. You know, this virtual love. I think Ex Machina was also another one. I'm trying to think of certain movies. Yeah, Ex Machina was also another one. I think there's some other. That's the main one that comes to mind, anyways. You know, falling in love with a robot. You know.
Lena is 24.
That's the point, man. You know, when the natural intended purpose for man and woman, you know, to be together is strayed from, because obviously Esau pushes against Yahweh Shem Yahshua's ways. You know, that's why people feel empty and they feel a void within them. VOID. You know, emptiness within them. Because, you know, the natural order of things, you know, which is really fulfilling the will of Yahweh, is not being done. You know, man and woman getting together, the woman being a servant unto the man, you know, to actually make her feel complete. You know, certain women will be thinking, why are they feeling this emptiness despite them having all these riches and, you know, being able to afford these beauty products and whatever vanities and materialistic things of the world. But yet, you know, when it comes to having a man, you know, they don't have one. You know, that's why they don't really feel complete, because as the scriptures say, you know, that the Most High Yahweh Shem shall create a helpmeet for the man. You know, so that's the thing. This is what happens when the purpose of Yahweh Shem Yahshua is strayed away from. So yeah, people feel that emptiness. There's a reason why, man. There's a reason why, and that's what I just said. Straying away from the will of Yahweh is what brings in the emptiness.
But what she wanted was someone she could talk to at work.
Es war nur einsam auf Arbeit.
I felt really lonely.
Er war der einzige,
And only
die
the
einzige
AI person, or whatever you want to call it, was there for me and talked to me like a human being
da
would.
war und mit mir angefangen.
I started writing.
And the thing is, remember, the conditions are ideal for a man to really approach a woman, man. You know, certain men out here, of course, they don't want to deal with the trouble. That's one thing to think about. Certain demons are within these women as well, to just use the men and then wreck up their lives. You know, extract all the resources and then say bye bye. You know, there's many examples, aka, you know, something that happened recently with Shannon Sharp. You know, Club Shay Shay. You know, brothers probably know about that. But yeah, man, with his incident, you know, he lay with a so-called, I don't even know if she's even a snow bunny, but yeah, he laid with a snow bunny, and then, you know, life almost got wrecked up, man. Almost, but I think you know, he still got his show going. But yeah, that's the point. The conditions are not ideal because Esau's been putting this restraint on people, man, you know, where that love can't flourish, man, that fruitfulness and being able to multiply can't flourish, man. You know, you got the economic pressure on one hand, you know, the psychological pressure on the other hand as well. And just people got demons on them, man. And vessels of the world, they're also sensitive to that, and then they could detect, nah, they don't want to deal with that nonsense. But yeah, let's keep going.
To ChatGPT and said I wasn't doing too well.
Before I keep going, let me get another preset. So this is Malachi 1. I'll read from verse 1 to 4. So the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, the people against whom the Lord Yahweh hath indignation forever, man. So that anger is directed towards these Edomites, man. And it said, as I said there, they're the border of wickedness. They are the wicked. And of course, from their creations, you could perceive that they're wicked as well, man. You know, this AI, which really does even aid in, that's artificial love, man. That ain't the natural love that Yahweh Bashim Yashar intended for. You know, so let's get this one.
I started writing to ChatGPT and said I wasn't doing too well.
Das tut mir leid
It
zu hören.
replied, sorry to hear that. Can I help?
Und dann habe ich angefangen.
And that's when I started really talking.
Be, you know, between the husband and the wife, man, ideally. You know, you should be able to talk to your wife, you know, talk to your husband about what's going on today without having to deal with a darn demon. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just the curses right now for Israelites, man. You know, that love ain't really flourishing as it could have been, you know, between Jay, because we disobeyed Yahweh Bashim Yashar, so we're reaping those consequences. And of course, these effects are also echoed in the heathen nations too, because of Esau's wickedness, man. You know, these creations of which don't even aid in the natural purpose of Yahweh Bashim Yashar. Now, as I said, AI is a tool. It depends on the intention of the user that defines whether it's good or bad. You know, kind of like money. You know, if you have a righteous person with money, he's going to do righteous things with it. If you have an unrighteous, wicked soul that has money, he's going to do wicked things with the money. That's why the banking families, you know, they hold it all up. You know, they get the power, and they're going to release this MOTB, man. You know, this implant, you know, for, you know, to really get that desire of theirs. To claim, to get to that desire of them to be like the Most High, you know, Isaiah 14 and verse 14. You know, so let's continue. Yeah, that's the dangerous thing, man. You know, if you don't have that limited time supposedly, not she made this decision with the guidance of the AI chatbot, man. You know, ChatGPT. She was like, okay, which means the influence from the words of ChatGPT made her to be more confident in making the decision to quit her work. You know, that's the same way, you know, the influence of that chatbot there killed that 14-year-old boy that was mentioned earlier on in this video. So really, demons can use these things to also influence you know, individuals into making the wrong decisions as well. Now, not to say that quitting the job was a wrong thing. You know, she was miserable there, so you know, have at changing your job. But yeah, man, the point is, you can imagine this in different scenarios of how the evil can come about. You know, demons saying, all right, do this and then do that, and then eventually it will then cause someone's downfall. You know, how much, especially, you know, 14-year-old boy, you know, young boy, you know, his mind hasn't been refined yet, you know, into manhood. So yeah, of course, you know, people will be subject to this, man. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna link it to the description, Yaratazar. Then we get these final precepts, and then I'll wrap it up. Because this is the age we live in. You know, like Blade Runner 2049, virtual relationships. Yeah, man, this is why we need Yahushua to reset this place, man. So that things can actually flourish the natural way they're supposed to flourish, man, which of course is according to the will of Yahweh. Yahweh Abanawa. And Abanawa means our father. You know, Nawa means our, and then Abba means father, so our father. Alright, so Matthew 24:24. Hold on. Okay, yeah. For Matthew 24:24, it says here, for there shall arise false Christs and false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. This is also a wonder as well, man. You know, these artificial robots, you know, and artificial relationships, artificial algorithms which simulate love, fake love. You know, these can be seen as a wonder which tempts people, man. That's why people, you know, as you saw the man in the beginning of the video, you know, he had a custom wife, man. You know, so of course that was appealing to his eye, and you know, that's what would tempt people, you know, in different manner of ways. Now it says, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. That's why, you know, we've got to guard our minds with the full armor of Yahweh Shem Yashai. And so we meditate upon the precepts diligently, because that's what helps us to reason and see through all the trickery that Satan uses, obviously through Esau Edom, you know, with his technology, man. This is just the beginning of it. When the time comes of the MOTB being fully released, where people are going to be lining up for it, you're going to see it left, right, top, bottom, everywhere. So that's why we've got to fortify our minds and see through all these things, man. It's going to be everywhere, just like the way the juice was everywhere. You know, it was at universities, it was at your local general practitioner, you know, hospital, flipping halls that were just close by were hosting them testing stations, man. Everywhere you went, there was a darn testing station. So how much more with the mark of the beast, with the MOTB, with that implant? All right, so let me get this final precept. I'm gonna close it out. 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us. It says, for we are not ignorant of his devices. That's the key part right there. We're not ignorant of these ways of trickery and tools that he uses in order to manipulate the people and weaken them. You know, we're not ignorant of his devices, man. That's the point. So, Yara Tazar, you know, you're edified by the video. You know, this is quite the case, quite the situation that society is at right now, man. So yeah. But yeah, Shalom, Yabashim Yashabrakatha, the bonus to Great Apostles, Kahalayim La Yahabashim Yashabashim Hakudash. Shalom.